With the recent release of Resident Evil Requiem, I thought that now is the best time to get all the achievements in the mainline games, and what better place to start than with the original's HD remake. To get all the achievements, I will have to complete the game multiple times with both characters on all difficulties, as well as some challenge and speedruns. There's also a handful of simple miscellaneous achievements and a good amount of missables that I have to look out for during my multiple playthroughs, with the only real challenge coming from the dated controls. My first playthrough, as recommended on PSN profiles, is a knife-only run on very easy with Chris. The game starts with the STARS Alpha team looking for the missing Bravo team who was investigating some strange murders near Raccoon City when they get attacked by some zombie dogs in the woods. This forces them to hide in a nearby mansion where only 3 members are left: Chris, Jill, and Captain Wesker. I now have control over Chris and we are made to go investigate some gunshots, but instead of finding a Bravo team member, we find a zombie eating one instead. After killing it, I get my first achievement. We then return to the main hall to find that Jill and Wesker are gone, so we start exploring the mansion to find them. On the floor, we also see Jill's gun, which we don't pick up since we can't use it anyway, and this goes for any other weapon or defensive item in the game as they all void the knife only run. It doesn't take long before we realize that most of the doors are locked and require specific keys to open, so our main goal for the moment is finding our first key. In one of the rooms we can access, we pick up a golden arrow whose tip we remove and use in the graveyard to unlock a crypt. Inside we discover 4 stone faces and a book containing our first key. In it, it's also written that we need to find 4 masks in the mansion for the stone faces to awaken evil. With that new objective, we head back inside the mansion and use our new key to open up more of the mansion to look for the masks. In a new room, we pick up a dog whistle for later use. Not long after that, I end up dying for the first time, which also unlocks another achievement. After making back all the progress that I lost, I use the dog whistle in a location specified in a note, which spawns in some dogs. One of them was wearing a collar that contained a replica key needed to obtain the real one. On my way to pick it up, I also fought a Crimson Head, which is a buffed up zombie that I previously killed but didn't burn its body, since that also voids the knife only. Beating it earns me another achievement. I then picked up the next key and replaced it with the replica to reset the trap it was in. Behind one of the doors that it opens, I find some surviving members of Bravo team, Rebecca and Richard, who's been poisoned by a massive snake, so we have to quickly retrieve some serum to cure him. After getting it back to him, I get an achievement. With that done, I continue looking for the masks, and after completing a color matching puzzle, I unlock a door that leads to the first one. Some more looking around leads me to picking up some herbicides that I used to kill a plant protecting the second one. The next mask was locked behind a puzzle that required me to push some knight statues in a certain order, which rewarded a box that contains the mask. The final mask was a bit more of a process to get compared to the other ones. First, I had to combine 2 music sheets, which then allowed Rebecca to play the piece on the piano. This opens up a hidden wall that contains a gold emblem that I switched out with a wooden one. Bringing the golden one to the wooden one's original location opens up a new puzzle with a clock, which when solved rewards a key. With the key, I open up the attic where we get attacked by the same snake that poisoned Richard, which is where we find the final mask. Placing them on the right faces causes a coffin to drop, and inside is the game's first boss. Even though the knife only run makes it a bit tedious, it isn't that hard and he goes down fairly quickly. Inside the coffin that he was in, there's also the next important item to progress, and collecting it grants an achievement. Placing the item in its place unlocks a door that leads to the courtyard where we get a radio transmission of our helicopter looking for us, but our signal doesn't make it through, so we need to find some other way to communicate. After traversing the yard and some of the woods, we make it to a shack where we find a crank, then get attacked by a monster before escaping. With the crank, we're able to drain a pool, which opens up the path to another smaller residence. Hidden underneath it is a massive facility where we meet up with Richard before he gets gobbled up by a massive shark. After interacting with some computers, we're able to drain the area, which allows us to kill the main big shark, which gave an achievement, as well as a key needed back up in the residence. Using it and solving another puzzle leads to a hidden room that contains the next main boss, a massive plant. It was a pretty bad fight, especially in melee only, because the poor depth perception made the tentacles hella hard to hit, but eventually it went down and gave an achievement, as well as the next key needed for the mansion. On our way out, we cross paths with Wesker, where he says that he got separated from Jill and asks us to keep exploring the mansion. There are now also new enemies called Hunters, and after killing one, I earned another achievement. The new key opens up more rooms where we find some books that have medals in them. One was locked behind a puzzle and the other was guarded by the massive snake. After a pretty easy fight, I killed it and got the second book for the medal and an achievement. Somewhere along the way, I also picked up a battery and a locked box with something inside it. The battery is used to power up an elevator in the yard, which gave access to some caves hidden behind a waterfall. In the caves, we find Enrico, another STARS member, who got shot and as he dies, mentions Umbrella. After that, we traverse the caves and fight the next boss, a big ass spider. It was also pretty easy and gave an achievement for beating it. Powering an elevator allows us to go deeper into the caves, where we come across some weird room that seems to belong to the monster from the cabin from way earlier, and from what I understood, she's the daughter of the mansion's owner. In the room there's also a box with a stone ring inside of it. To open up the other box from earlier, I had to find a red gem and put it in the slot in the box. This then prompted me to complete a quick puzzle to fully open it, and inside it I find the final key. With it I opened up another door, which causes a hunter to attack Rebecca, and after saving her from it we get another achievement. In the room we just opened, I find a metal object which combines with the stone ring to form an object just like the one in the crypt. Since I need both of them, I go retrieve it from where I left it and use them to open up the doors that lead underneath the mansion. In there we find Wesker fighting Lisa, which is the monster's name, and help him deal with her by opening up the stone coffin that holds her mother's remains. This causes her to crash out and jump off a ledge into the abyss, earning me yet another achievement. After that, I use the 2 medals that were in the books to open up a secret entrance that leads to a hidden lab underneath the mansion. In the lab, while trying to get some doors open, we learn that Wesker was a scientist at Umbrella and that they're the cause for the zombie outbreak. I also use some discs that I've been collecting to unlock a massive door, behind which we find Jill being held captive. To free her and also blow up the lab, we need to initiate the self-destruct sequence, and to do so we first have to supply it with energy. So we take an empty fuel capsule and load it up with a highly volatile fuel, which means that we can't run or get hit until we place it or it'll explode. After a few tries, I managed to get the fuel in and power up the system. This also turns on an elevator that we need to take. Before doing that though, Rebecca catches up and comes with us. Together we go to where Wesker is, and he reveals that he's with Umbrella and was trying to get rid of Stars, and shoots Rebecca. He also releases a massive monster called Tyrant from its testing tube and immediately gets killed by it. After a short and easy fight, it goes down and we find out that Rebecca got clutched up by Wesker's shit aim and her bulletproof vest. As we leave, we send her to initiate the self-destruct sequence, which also frees Jill for an achievement. Taking the elevator up to the helipad initiates a 3-minute timer before the lab blows up. We also find some incredibly convenient signal rockets to call over our helicopter. In the meantime, Jill and Rebecca make their way up as well when Tyrant pops out of the ground for a final fight. It's a lot harder than the first one, but after either dealing enough damage or time passing, I really couldn't tell, our helicopter arrives and gives us a rocket launcher, which is allowed in the knife only since it's scripted. So we use it to blow up Tyrant to end the game for 2 achievements, one for finishing the game as Chris and the other for saving Jill and Rebecca. Then they all leave together as the mansion blows up. By this point I'm stressing because the knife only run didn't pop, so I thought that I avoided it at some point, but all I had to do was wait until the post credits to get the rest of the achievements. Besides the ones for completing the game on very easy and the knife only run, I also, by some miracle and definite mistake in the save data, got the sub 5-hour speedrun and almost to the sub 3, which makes 0 sense based on the length of the footage I have. In any case, that wraps up playthrough number 1 with 18 achievements. Now it's time for playthrough number 2, a 100% completion, good ending Jill run on normal difficulty. Since the game plays out largely the same on both characters, with slight differences coming in mainly in cutscenes, I won't go in as much detail for this playthrough unless there's an achievement involved. One of the main differences is that instead of having Rebecca as a main side character, Jill gets Barry, who early on in the playthrough saves us from being crushed while exploring a room for an achievement. Gameplay wise, the run is also pretty different since I have to collect every item in every room for the 100%, and I can finally use guns and burn enemies so they don't respawn. Burning my first one also gave an achievement. Since I can finally use guns, I also fight off the snake in the attic, which gave another achievement. I also got some for simple story progression for things like killing the crypt boss, getting the helmet key, and beating the snake in the library. Then, during the final Lisa encounter, Barry is there instead of Wesker, and he tries to kill us, but we get the better of him and take his gun. But to save him for the good ending and another achievement, we have to trust him and give him back his gun. Entering the lab also gave one. Killing 2 enemies close to each other, then lighting them on fire at the same time gave one as well. The lab section is the same up until we reach Wesker, where Barry betrays us again, but that's because his family is at risk. Wesker reveals that he's doing this for himself and not Umbrella, and Barry comes around and shoots Wesker, which allows him to escape somehow. After an easy Tyrant fight, since I can use guns, we save Chris the same way we saved Jill before going up to the helipad. Once there, I unlock the 100% achievement since it's the final area counted towards it. Beating Tyrant again ends playthrough number 2, unlocking multiple achievements. There's finishing the game as Jill, getting Jill's good ending, beating the game on easy and normal, and beating the game with both characters. Beating the game on normal also unlocked a real survival difficulty, which makes the game slightly more realistic and harder, and is the subject of playthrough number 3. I also plan on knocking out the 3-hour and no save achievements at the same time to cut down on total playthroughs. Since I have 2 full playthroughs under my belt in the span of a couple of days, none of that was really an issue by this point, so I'll skip the explanations and jump to the end of the playthrough, which unlocks the following: Jill's bad ending for saving no one, a hard mode and real survivor clear, a sub 3-hour speedrun, and beating the game without saving. This also unlocks invisible enemy mode, which I will be doing on Chris since he has a lot more health than Jill. Once again, this being the 4th playthrough, I will skip the details except for one achievement that required me to get poisoned in the attic and getting some serum as Rebecca. I also got another one along the way for getting every weapon, but I wasn't able to find it while rewatching the footage. Ending this playthrough unlocked Chris's bad ending, the invisible enemy run, and all costumes to complete Resident Evil 1. Overall, I thought that this was a very solid game and a solid start to the series, as no achievements were too hard to get. The game was interesting and fun to play through, but a bit repetitive towards the end, and the controls were at times frustrating due to their age. I would definitely recommend it to any survival horror fan if they have yet to play it, but not without the door animation skip mod, as those got old very quickly. The next video is going to be on Resident Evil 2, so make sure to subscribe to not miss it or any future uploads. Thank you for watching, and until next time, have a good one.
Premature.